This right here could be one of the most underrated cars on the market in 2023. It's the Kia Niro, which is available with hybrid or full EV powertrains available. This one here is the EV GT line, the top spec model, and I've been spending the last 3 months with it to see what it's like to live with. And let me tell you, there are very few catches with this car. It just depends on what your budget might be. Stay tuned, I'm going to tell you all about this car in this review. Thanks for watching, my name's Matt. This channel is called The Right Car, where I help you find the right car for your needs. Please, if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe and join the community, have your say in the comments section. Kia Niro comes as a hybrid or electric, and there are 2 different trim grades available with both powertrain options as well. So the entry-level S grade, the hybrid version of it, is just under $45,000 before on-road costs. And then if you want the EV, you're going to have to really want it because it's $20,000 or thereabouts more. So it's a very expensive EV compared to some of the more attractively priced rivals in this sort of small SUV segment. And when it comes to the S grade, it doesn't look as good as it could either, if you ask me. It comes with halogen headlights, still gets these LED daytime running lights, but halogen lights on a high-tech car just seems so backwards to me in 2023. You also get some pretty dorky looking 16-inch alloy wheels on the petrol or hybrid version at least. And if you choose the EV, it doesn't matter whether you choose the S or the GT line, which is this one here, you get the same 17-inch alloy wheels and the same battery pack as well, with a claimed 460 k's of range. So I would say that you really need to buy the GT line if you're looking at a Niro. You will get more value for money there. Inside you get some eco leather seats with heating and cooling in the front as well as electric adjustment. There's also a heated steering wheel in the GT line versions, and you get the big 10.25-inch twin screen look on the interior. So it does sort of feel like you have to spend the most money to get the best car, and if you want this car, I really do recommend that you buy the GT line version. If you want a small SUV as your first EV or next EV, then there are a few good alternatives to the Kia Niro, especially if you are more budget constrained than this car, because you can get a lot of compact SUV fully electric for a lot less money than this car, including the likes of the BYD Atto 3, which is one of the better small EV SUVs out there. I think that's a really nice looking and pretty well packaged little EV. It's pretty well priced as well. So the top spec extended range or long range version is just over $51,000, and you do get about 420 k's of claimed EV range for that kind of money. And that's, sure, less than what you get in a Niro, but it's still pretty practical. So if you're looking around that $50,000 to almost $60,000 mark as your budget, then another alternative, if you need long range, would be the MG4, which comes with up to 530 k's of EV range for about $56,000 for that version. It's more of a hatchback than an SUV, but honestly, this is kind of a hatchback as well. So it might be the right car for you because it does offer quite a bit for the money. Finally, I would suggest you should be looking at the Cupra Born. Hit the link at the top of your screen there to see my review of that EV, because it is more affordable and has more range than this car. Also looks a lot nicer in my opinion, and it's got a more interesting interior too. Which one would you pick? This or one of those other ones, or something completely different? Comment and let me know. You may have heard me say before that I think that small SUVs are basically at their best when they're around 4.4 meters, as the Kia Niro is. But one thing about this car, it is a little bit wider than some of the other small SUVs out there. And if you're stepping up from, say, a small hatchback like a Mazda 2 or a Mini Cooper or something like that, it might feel a bit big on the road. So just make sure you go for a test drive and see if you're okay with the size of it, because it is pretty broad-shouldered, chunky little thing. All right, let's check out the boot. Let's talk about boot space for the Kia Niro. So it depends whether you choose the hybrid or the EV as to which has the bigger boot. So if you choose a hybrid, you get 425 litres of cargo capacity. If you choose the EV, because you don't get a spare wheel, which you do in the hybrid, it's 475 litres of cargo space, which is definitely big enough for a family of 3. We had this car for the last 3 months. It's probably a bit dirty because of that. And that's Definitely what we found was a suitable size in terms of boot space, easily fit a pram and shopping. You can also adjust the boot floor so you can lower it down if you need more space. Plus under there, you can also store your charge cables if you don't want to store them in the front for whatever reason, or you can put some other stuff underneath the boot floor as well. Definitely a practical option if you are a small family. The cabin of the Niro is a very livable place. I can say that because I've been living with this car for the last 3 and a bit months, and it hasn't really had any major issues in terms of the usability of the space at least. So it does have some pretty good storage options available to you. You've got big door pockets with bottle holders. There's a storage tray in front of the shifter here in the GT line version with this wireless phone charger as well. There's a couple of cup holders between here with these little retractable button operated, I guess you'd call them cup holders, because that's where you can adjust them to be either a cup holder space or an open storage space. There's a little storage cubby underneath there as well with just a little bit of extra space there. So it is a pretty practical cabin in terms of the storage stuff, and it's comfortable too. The seats are very comfy. These eco leather, I think they're called, this material finish on the seats is nice. It's not necessarily the most, I guess, high-end feeling eco leather that I've sat in, but it does have a decent amount of comfort to the seat. And in this top spec version, you also get heated and cooled front seats. One thing that I will say though, even though both front seats are electrically adjustable, there are no memory settings. And between myself and my partner, there's about 6 inches of height difference between us. And it has been a little bit annoying when we are jumping between the driver's seat between both of us. So it isn't necessarily the most practical in terms of that, but it does have some really nice practicality elements to the design in here. I love the fact that you've got these twin big screens, but you do get this lovely touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's not wireless, you have to plug in still, so that's a little bit annoying, but it does have sat-nav as well if you need that. And you can also do a lot of the climate control stuff through the screen, or you can use this little system down here. So at the moment it's set on media interaction. So you've got your file tuning and you've also got volume and power there. But if you hit the button here, it'll change those to your climate control knobs. So that's kind of nice. And it does mean that it is a bit more practical than some of the other cars out there that have just a big touchscreen where you have to do everything through a screen. At least there's some tactile buttons and controls down there. Speaking of which, the rotary dial selector is better than some of the other rotary dials out there because it has a stopper on it, so it doesn't actually just keep swirling, it just returns to center, which I like. Otherwise, I think it's a pretty nice cabin. And pretty practical too. Let me show you the back seat. In between driving all the other cars I've been reviewing over the last few months, this has been the daycare drop-off and pickup car of choice, especially for my daughter. She loved it. She was like, the white car all the time. She thought it was one of the fun cars to go in. Maybe because of the acceleration available to it, but also because it does have nice amenities back here. So her seats fit in this spot here, which is where it's been the whole time we've had this car basically. And it does have enough space in front of that seat for someone to still be comfortable in the front passenger seat. And that would be the case too if you did have a rearward facing baby capsule as well. This is a pretty spacious back seat experience. So for example, I'm an adult, as you may have been able to tell already, 182 centimeters and 6 foot tall. So this seat is set for my driving position, and I've got heaps of knee room. As is often the case with EVs, toe room's a little bit limited. Headroom could be better, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker. This is going to be a comfortable family car if you need this amount of space. And when it comes to the amenities, you've got directional air vents down here. You've got a little power point down here as well, so you can keep things charged up, whether you need to plug in your laptop or an iPad for the road trip. It's a pretty nice thing to have. There's map pockets on the seat backs as well. They're the hard back seats, so little ones can kick to their heart's content. Bottle holders in the doors and a flip down armrest with cup holders as well. So all the amenities are taken care of, apart from the fact that the sunroof is quite small. And yeah, my daughter liked the cars that had the bigger sunroof a bit more. Maybe yours would too. Choose the hybrid version of the Niro and you'll find a 1.6 litre petrol engine under the bonnet, but it teams an electric motor into the dual clutch transmission, which is a 6-speed dual clutch. It sends all the power to the front wheels. It's quite a small battery pack, quite a small electric motor, but it does make some pretty good outputs as a combined output at least. It's also pretty good on fuel, we'll get to that later, but I think that the EV is the better pick if you can justify the cost. The EV versions come with a 64.8 kilowatt hour battery pack under the body of the car, plus a front mounted electric motor and a single speed transmission. The power and torque outputs are okay. They're not necessarily the biggest for an EV at this sort of price point. And if you want to get a really fast EV, there are plenty of better options than this car if that's what you are prioritizing. All right, let's talk about charging. Kia claims you should be able to get about 460 k's of EV driving range out of a full charge. And when it comes to charging, there are a few options for you. You've got AC charging. It can do 11 kilowatt AC charging. It'll do a full charge in about 9.5 or 10 hours. So not necessarily a deal breaker when it comes to that. But when it comes to DC charging, the maximum input is nowhere near as fast as some of the other EVs in this sort of price bracket when it comes to rapid charging. And that could mean about a 45-minute recharge from 10 to 80% at a super fast charger. So it's not the fastest charging EV. And if that matters to you, then there are better options out there. Oh, and when it comes to the hybrid, it's not plug-in, so you don't need to worry about plugging in. And if you do buy the EV, you get a little storage section under here where you can put your cables, which is nice. The Kia Niro is just so easy to live with. It's kind of like a regular small SUV to drive in a lot of ways, apart from obviously the fact that it has an EV powertrain. So it is zippy enough when you put your foot down. In fact, it's very quick when you put your foot down. But I haven't actually been finding myself needing to accelerate rapidly all that much in this car, and it's just a very easy SUV to live with. Although SUV is maybe a little bit of a generous terminology, it's kind of more like a hatchback to drive, and that's no bad thing. It's not perfect though. I would say that the steering is just a little bit heavy and oddly weighted at times, so especially at lower speeds you might find that it feels a little bit numb and there's not that much feel to it, but at higher speeds it's nice and direct. The suspension can be just a little bit unsettled at times, especially at lower speeds over sharp-edged bumps, but it mainly comes down to the fact that you're feeling the weight of the car just sort of struggling to hold itself together a little bit in that sort of situation anyway. But at higher speeds it rides nicely and it has a nice characteristic to it on the highway. I've been doing a lot of highway driving in this car, in and out of the Sydney CBD from my place out here in the Blue Mountains, and it's been very, very enjoyable, very livable, very likable, and not really too many complaints to speak of. One thing that I do wish there was a proper owner's manual or instruction manual in the glove box, because there isn't. You scan a code on the screen in the middle here and it'll take you to a digital version of the owner's manual, but I couldn't find out how to do the tyre pressure monitoring reset because we had a bit of an issue with tyre pressure monitoring in this car. It kept saying that it was under pressure, even though it was reading that it was at the correct or just over the correct pressure on the digital display in front of the driver. So that was a bit annoying to not be able to figure out how to change that or remedy that, but I did figure it out eventually, just overinflated things a little bit and then it reset itself. There's also regenerative braking as well, as you would expect in an EV, and it's got paddle shifter adjustment. So you can basically adjust how aggressive the regen braking is. Cruising now, I don't have my foot on the accelerator, going downhill a little bit, and now you can see that it is coming to a slow halt. But if you do want to stop the car without using the brake, you can just hold the left paddle down and it'll stop. It's kind of neat. There is something pretty charming about this car though. It is kind of just like a conventional car in the way that it drives, and that's one of the reasons I liked it so much for the last few months. I'm going to be sad to hand it back because it's been a really good family companion for me and mine. You know, with myself, my partner, our daughter, our 2 dogs, we've all managed to fit in here at one stage. And it's been a really good little commuter and runaround car. But it would make a great first and only car as well if you were after a family vehicle that had, well, an EV powertrain or hybrid if you wish, and just offers a really easy, enjoyable, nice, likable experience. Like I said, it's one of the most underrated EVs on the market, but you just have to be able to justify the cost. Now, when it comes to efficiency, you'll see the official figure in terms of kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers on your screen now. If you're not aware, that means, well, the same sort of thing that petrol and hybrid and diesel versions mean. The lower the number, the better. And that number's not too bad, but over our 3 months with this car, we've actually managed to beat that. And that's been very impressive. The fact that on screen now you'll see our on-test 3-month average consumption figure. This is a very efficient car in real-world driving. And hey, if you are interested in the hybrid versions, the official figure for those in terms of litres per 100 is 4 litres per 100 Ks. And in my experience, I've driven one of them before, I saw closer to 5 and a bit, but even so, very efficient too. I know this isn't a big SUV, but it doesn't come with the availability of a surround view camera, which you can get in similarly priced and similarly sized SUVs if you are willing to shop elsewhere. And look, you do get front and rear parking sensors, and if you choose the GT line version, you also score a rear auto braking system, which will brake for obstacles, but not necessarily for pedestrians. At least that's something. When it comes to airbag coverage, you've got as many as you would probably need if you were involved in an accident. Dual front side, full length curtain, and a front center airbag as well to prevent head impacts when it comes to a T-bone crash. Buy a Kia in Australia and you get a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty. You also get a 7-year battery warranty if you choose the Niro. Whether it's the hybrid version, the battery pack in that gets a 7-year warranty, plus the big battery in the EV gets one as well. So let's talk about servicing. There's cap price servicing for both hybrid and EV versions, but the cap price packs that you can buy for the EV are a lot more affordable. In fact, it averages out at $250 per year, which is pretty attainable for a car at this kind of price point. However, if you buy the hybrid, over 7 years, you're going to be looking at almost $4,000 in servicing costs, which is very expensive in 2023 for a hybrid car. In fact, it's almost double what you'll pay from rivals if you're buying a hybrid. Actually, it could be more than double. It's about $570 a year, and that could factor into your decision-making process. It would if I was considering this car, but you should know that every single Niro comes with up to 8 years of roadside assist included as well. Like I said at the start of this video, I reckon this is still one of the most underrated cars on the market, but it does cost a bit too much in my opinion. Look, if you do have the budget to spend and you're after something like this, then this could be a really good option for you. But if you're on a tighter budget and you just want an EV with big range, then there are better alternatives for less money. And if you want a hybrid with a lower price tag, you can get one of those too. So it really depends what you need, but I would say that at $70,000 for this car, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's worth that much cash. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Would you choose this or something else? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the bell to keep up to date with everything I've got coming. Thanks for watching. Bye.